Front Porch Paranormal.
And welcome everybody to the very first episode of Front Porch Paranormal. I'm your host, Dave Caudell, and with me is
Shannon Caudell.
She is the co-host with the most. I am a lucky man, and I gotta say, happy Pride, Shannon.
Happy Pride, David.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go to a Pride event on Saturday, and I just want to put that out there that we are allies, and so yeah, I mean, if you have a problem with that, then maybe the show isn't for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
But seriously, folks, we wanted to do a paranormal show that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's almost like sitting on the front porch with a couple friends, having some, cold drinks, some nice adult beverages, and we've been doing that a lot lately, especially on Fridays with our friends Chris and Anna and Marcus and Andrew. In fact, we're getting ready to go to Pride with Marcus and Andrew on Saturday, and I am so excited about that. Shannon, you've never been to a Pride event before, so this is your very first time, right?
Yes, I've never been to a Pride event, and I don't have any Pride merchandise, so I gotta wear just a shirt that has rainbows on it, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to see the festivities and the excitement in the air.
But both of us are actually wearing pro wrestling shirts to the.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that part, but yeah, they're both pro wrestling shirts.
So I'm actually wearing my Gaytanic Panic shirt, which is a combination of the now WWE superstar Danhausen and Effie. Effie is out there. I mean, he
He's
comes
very out there.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's for sure in more ways than one. But Effie is so cool and
such a good guy.
Such a good guy. And you're actually wearing, what is it that you're wearing to the show?
I am wearing a Willow Nightingale shirt. It says "Nothing matters, smile anyway," and it's got rainbows on it.
Which I'm sure, yeah, Willow's an ally anyway. So,
yes.
Oh, for sure. So, what else has been going on, Shannon?
Nothing much, Dave.
Just nothing much. I'm off on summer break, so
I'm still working every day, doing the 8 to 4 Monday through Friday.
So while you're getting up, going to work, I'm still sleeping.
Yep.
Although I have been getting up about the same time you have every morning. So
yeah.
So I can't really, say I've been sleeping in a lot. I mean, to me, it's sleeping in because I'm used to getting up at 5:30 in the morning, if not sooner.
Yeah, but then you're also usually taking a nap when I get home too.
Yeah, pretty much. So about 3, I usually lay down, take a nap till about 1 o'clock or so. So, but enough about our personal lives. Let's get into the spooky stuff, okay?
All right, I'm ready for it.
In this first segment, I like to call Paranormal in the News. Now, I have to say the first story, and actually the only story I'm talking about today, has got to do with the UFO and UAP disclosure. I have got to touch on that because
of course
that's the Mac Daddy right now. And usually we don't get political on this show, but there are some politicians that I have to mention when I'm doing this. So don't take this as a way of endorsing a candidate or a party or anything like that. I mean, we're pretty out there about our beliefs about, so if anybody wants to look up our personal beliefs, we post on social media. So
you'll see it.
You'll see it. But the story that I have now is from CBS News. And this is actually a couple weeks ago on May 8th. But so far, they've had 2 document releases. The Pentagon has released 2 document dumps about UFO and UAP disclosure. Now, from what I have looked into, I haven't really seen anything major. Like there is a couple interesting stories from some old pilots, and some of the pictures and stuff. They're still a little blurry, and I think anybody that has basically has in society today knows these things exist.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
everybody sees the weird lights in the sky and sees something that they can't explain. And technically, anything that you don't know is in the sky is technically a UFO.
Oh, yeah, technically, yeah. And the thing is, the government has been saying these things are weather balloons since the 1940s or whatever. So finally, they're actually kind of acknowledging that. Now, why the timing for this is happening, I have no idea.
We have our speculations.
We have speculations, but we're not going to go there. Like I said, this is from CBS News, and it says the Pentagon on Friday began releasing more files related to the UFO and UAPs, following through an order from President Trump to make public government documents about unexplained phenomenon. The release, posted on a new Pentagon UFO website, includes 162 files from the FBI, Department of Defense, NASA, and State Departments. The documents contain eyewitness testimony, photos, and reports of sightings of unexplained objects, detailing incidents going back decades from around the globe. So they're not just releasing like stuff that happened here in the United States. They're releasing stuff that happened all over the globe. These files, hidden behind classifications, have long fueled justified speculation, and it's time the American people see it for themselves. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in a statement. The president said the disclosure was aimed at providing complete and maximum transparency. Whereas previous administrations have failed to be transparent on the subject, with these new documents and videos, the people can decide for themselves what the hell is going on. Mr. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Have fun and enjoy." Now, have fun and enjoy. Oh, okay. Friday's release included 120 PDFs, 28 videos, and 14 image files. Other photos contained in the PDF documents as well. The images are mostly still photos from footage of suspicious objects filmed by military aircraft. Now, you know, I've been interested in UFOs ever since I was a kid, probably since the 90s. You know, back in the 90s, there was a huge UFO and alien like explosion, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like I had alien stuff in my room too.
I think everybody did. I think that was just the time. You know, we had the X-Files on TV. We had Alien Autopsy, and the movies, you know, as Fire in the Sky, you know. Independence Day. So, I mean, we could, and we can even say Alf. Alf was a part of that too.
Alf was a alien, so
I mean,
alien life form.
He was an alien life form. So, I mean, even though that was more in the 80s, but yeah, aliens have always been something that I've been interested in. And for our government to actually come out and say, you know, hey, these things exist. I feel like, you know, maybe 10, 20 years ago, I figured the story would be more prevalent than it is now. It just seems like really nobody cares.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with just the way that you know, the world is right now. I think people are just kind of like, or either that or just people are just desensitized to it. But that's a different topic for a different day. Now we have a feature that we call the Creature Feature, and take it away, Shannon.
All right, so this week's creature is going to be one that's a little bit close to us. We wanted to kind of start home with this one. This is going to be the Poplick Monster.
Ooh.
This is from Louisville, Kentucky.
Right down the road, y'all.
For years, many people reported seeing the creature that many now refer to as the Poplick Monster on the trestles over Poplick Creek. It is said to be half human and half goat. The encounter with it is so startling that anyone daring to brave the walk across the trestle, which is the train track that the Poplick Monster is said to be on, would rather fall the 100-foot drop to the paved road below than to stay in its presence a second longer.
So people would rather die than have to be around this thing.
Now, would you want to be in the presence of a goat man, David?
I don't know. I would probably I've seen some people that look like goats. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, would you want to be in the presence of one with the only place either being run as fast as you can behind you or a fall? Which one would you want to do?
I would have to wait to see. But go on.
Okay. So it is said that the monster was the offspring of a farmer who had unnatural relations with his animals.
Ooh, bestiality.
Yeah. So that's not very nice. But it is Kentucky. No offense, Kentucky. I have family in Kentucky. I love Kentucky, but you got your stereotypes, guys. Another legend states that the goat man was a farmer who practiced Satanism and would sacrifice his goats for power. And
I like that version better.
Yeah. When he was close to death, he swore to live again. He was then resurrected as a half man, half goat being, which is fated to walk the trestles.
Okay.
Which I guess if you think about it, the devil is often portrayed as a goat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
I'm gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna think. The Goat Man is a former devil worshiper that gave his soul to Satan instead of a dude. Screwing his goats. And yeah.
That's kind of a kinder way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
But the final legend seems to have the most realism and the most detail. It combines the Goatman story with another tale synonymous with the trestle, the ghost train, that is also rumored to appear on the tracks.
So there's a ghost train as well.
Of course there is. A sudden flurry of motion as a train passes overhead along the trestle rails, but yet makes no sound of approach to the passage. In the late 1800s, there were rumors of a wild animal roaming the Canadian wilderness abounding.
So so this thing might possibly be Canadian.
It's a possibility.
Okay. All right.
You never know what's going up in Canada's.
Well, how's it getting anyway? Go on. I'm sorry.
Well,
Go
of
ahead.
course it walked. Duh. Either that or it went by UFO. Got jumped off by a UFO. There
yeah, there you go. Hitchhike.
Hitchhike. There you go.
Yeah.
Creature's presence caught the attention of a circus owner by the name of Silas Garner. He offered a substantial reward for the creature's capture. Having finally had someone track and capture the beast, he began to exhibit the goat monster in his freak show.
Okay, cool.
So sideshows there. From town to town, they went, the monster being one of his star attractions, until one fateful night, while bound for Louisville, lightning struck the track, derailing the train and killing all passengers aboard except for one.
The Goat Man.
Yes.
Yeah. Or the Pope Lick Monster. Or is it just the Goat Man now?
It goes back and forth.
So
it's the Pope-like monster that is also known as the Goat Man.
Okay.
And I want to give credit to the Louisville Ghost Hunter Society for that information.
Okay, so you're looking that up on the Louisville Ghost Hunter site, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So Shannon, every week for the next couple weeks, is going to be talking a little bit about the Pope Lick Monster. So we are looking forward to that. And there's actually a Goatman Festival that is held yearly in Louisville. And I think it's gotten really pretty popular. So I know they're actually doing some. I watched a video the other day. They're actually moving some stuff around to make room because there's so many people are going to that now. They're getting so many vendors, so many guests, so many speakers, and it's cool to see like a big like cryptid event this close to home. I think the only one that I could probably compare it to would probably be the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is huge.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I've never been, but I've seen videos, I've seen pictures, and I would love to attend that event one day. I think that would be amazing. I've never been to a cryptid event, and I think this year that's going to have to change. I think Porch Paranormal is just going to have to go and make a presence in some of these places.
Yeah, there's one that's fairly close to us that we're wanting to attend, but also there was a Bigfoot festival in Red River Gorge float recently that looked like it was pretty big. It had a pretty big turnout, so I'm happy for that.
And that's also in Kentucky. Am I right?
Yeah, it's Red River Gorge.
Okay, all right, cool. So there's a lot of cryptid stuff. The Hopkinsville monsters or little green goblins, little green men. There's all sorts of stuff. So, all right, well, here on the front porch, we have a segment that's coming up. It's called Spooky Stories with Dave. So today's spooky story, and this has to go along with June, which is Pride Month. I thought I would pick something a little gay.
Of course.
Something a little gay, okay? Shannon, have you ever heard of Corpsewood Manor?
The name rings a bell, but I don't know much about it. Tell me about it, Dave.
Okay, well, a manor that was originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dr. Charles Scudder was a doctor and professor at Loyola University in Chicago in the 1970s. In fact, Dr. Scudder did government-funded LSD research that ultimately led to the MK Ultra program.
I'm sure he had pretty good volunteers for that one.
Oh, I guarantee he did. But Dr. Scudder was different. Not only did Dr. Scudder just have different philosophies on life, but back in the 1970s, I mean, he dyed his hair purple. which I'm sure you love because your hair is purple.
And I'm just looking at you like, okay, what's wrong with that?
Well, you gotta admit, this is the 1970s, and people just didn't do that.
Right.
But not only was Dr. Scudder just had an odd appearance for 1970, but he was also into the occult, and he was a member of the Church of Satan. Now, the Church of Satan, when people say the Church of Satan, they, assume like sacrifices and anything like that. But when Anton LaVey made the Church of Satan, it was basically filled with a lot of atheists that just basically believed that that their earthly pleasures like sex and drugs and food were to be enjoyed over heavenly pleasures. So they basically just wanted to live it up. So basically, when Anton LaVey would do these like elaborate rituals and parties, it was just an excuse to do drugs and have orgies. So
I think he just wanted to get his rocks off and just have fun with it and have a religion for it.
I guess so. That's how a lot of cults are found. Too.
Exactly.
You get these guys that just want a nut, basically. So.
And then any excuse they can find sometimes to do drugs or get sex involved with it. There you go.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, this was in the like I said, it was the mid 1970s, and he was on his second marriage at that time, and it had just ended, and he ended up hiring a guy by the name of Joseph Odom. Now, Joseph became...
How is that spelled again?
Odom. Odum. Okay? Okay, well, the reason why I knew you would...
No reason for that. Just asking.
Okay. All right. Well, she has a family member whose name is Odom, so...
And it's a very peculiar name. We don't hear it very often.
Yeah, and then when I saw that name, I was like, oh my God, Shannon's going to freak. Okay? So by the mid-70s, he had met Joseph Odom, and him and Joseph became really close, and he ended up hiring Joseph as his housekeeper. Well, time had went by, and like I said, they became close, and pretty soon they fell in love.
Can I say I would not want to keep that house doing drugs and orgies and stuff in it?
Well, the story continues.
Okay.
The story continues.
I just wanted to add that.
Well, by 1975, they ended up becoming a little tired of Chicago. The doctor became tired of the academics and stuff, and they found a beautiful piece of property in Chattahoochee County, Georgia. And that's when the couple moved there, and they decided that they were going to build a house on this property. Now, this property was way out in the woods, so it was kind of secluded, out of the way of town. And they ended up building the house themselves. It was an oval-shaped house because, like I said, the doctor was into the occult, and they believed that spirits can hide in corners. So they ended up making this house, and I think it ended up being like a 2 or 3 story home. And it had a pink gargoyle. It was very Victorian looking, and they named it Corpsewood, named after all the dead trees that was around the area. Now, Charles played a golden harp, and he also painted. He painted portraits. He painted. He was just an artist. He
was very artistic, very creative.
Very creative. A Renaissance man, really. Well, Joey became a fantastic cook, and their dream was just to live on this property and just host these amazing parties and amazing orgies and whatnot. And
I'll bet they were amazing hosts.
Oh, I guarantee it. They
had the best food, best layouts, best charcuterie boards.
Oh, for sure. The best charcuterie boards, for sure. Now, they had two bull mastiffs, and one of them was named Beelzebub. And bull mastiffs, they're huge.
Right.
They're huge dogs. But off to the side of the property, they had built a 3-story building called the Chicken House. Now, the Chicken House, on the first floor, it was all like just a normal, chicken pen, right?
Okay.
Then you climb the ladder and you go up to the second story. Now, the second story was mostly like canned foods and just different things.
Kind of storage,
yeah. Now, the third story was where the action happens.
That's where the magic happens, baby.
That's where the magic happens. That was called the Pink Room, and they hosted adult parties there where there was various sexual encounters and drugs and just wine and just all sorts of just
Whatever happens, happens.
Whatever happens, happens. But they claim that the people that went to these things, that everything was consensual. There was no
No assaults, no rapes.
no SA, nothing like that. But this was like the late 1970s, early 1980s, and the town thought they were weird and possibly devil worshippers. However, everyone they encountered said that they were so nice. So anytime anybody went up to the house, they always talked about how just incredibly nice and what good hosts they were.
I'm sure they were.
Which for most gay couples are pretty awesome hosts.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just put it, they're just wonderful people. But a teenager in the area by the name of Avery Brock. Avery Brock was a hunter, and he had befriended a guy named Tony West. Now, Tony was quite older. Tony was in his 30s, and they became really close, and they became basically roommates.
My question is, what is a 30-year-old doing with a teenager?
Friends
and roommates.
I thought that too, but and I know this was the 80s, and I understand that, but even then, that was pretty.
I mean, looking back on it, that's creepy.
Tony supposedly had a past himself, the 30-year-old. I guess he had spent some time in jail himself.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right? Well, hanging out with 17-year-olds, I'd say so. Now, Avery Brock, like I said, he was a hunter, so he had often went by their house, the gay couple's house, to go hunting on the property.
That Porch Manor.
Oh, yes. And Avery Brock confided in Tony that while hunting on the property near Corpsewood, he met Dr. Scudder and had a sexual encounter with him in the pink room. Now, nobody can confirm this happened or not. But later on, they would actually use this on their defense in court. Avery and Tony convinced themselves that the couple must have had a fortune somewhere in that house and that they were going to go in there and get that fortune. Went into the house if he saw like some of the elaborate paintings or the elaborate furniture, but they had convinced themselves that these guys were loaded and they had money in this house.
And the paintings could have just came from the doctor painting his own pictures,
painting
them up.
Well, we're going to talk about that because this is going to get creepy here in a bit, okay? It's
creepy now. What are you talking about? Because 30-something, 50-something-year-old guys hanging out with the 17-year-old.
50-something, 30-something, 30-something-year-old.
Well, how old's the doctor?
Huh? Well, I didn't even think about that. You know what? I didn't even think about that.
The doctor and his boyfriend Joey, how old are they to be hanging out with the 17-year-old?
That is true.
I mean, Avery might be 18 by this time, but
I see. Well, I didn't really look up into that, so I don't know. But on December 12th, 1982, Brock, West, and two of their friends, Joey Wells and Teresa Huggins, went into Corpse Manor and was greeted by Charles Scudder. Now, when Brock and West, they had a plan that night that they were going to rob this couple. They took Joey Wells and Teresa, and they had no idea what the plan was. They were just going along just to say, hey, we're going to a party. So when they went up to Corpsewood Manor, they was greeted by Charles Scudder, and Charles took them up to the pink room to drink wine and chat. I mean, that's because that's
being
what
the
you
hospitable host that they were, I'm assuming.
Yes, and they passed around a mixture called Toodaloo.
Toodaloo!
Which contained paint thinner and alcohol to huff and get high, a mixture that Brock and West had made. That is some hillbilly fucking shit.
Yeah, paint thinner and paint?
Yeah, paint thinner and alcohol.
Paint thinner and alcohol.
That oh my gosh. Toodaloo!
Whoa, no kidding. Might as well stick some formaldehyde to your mouth and get you passed out.
Well, I figured that's what they probably said after they huffed it was Toodaloo, because that's where they got done with the Toodaloo. Brock went down the ladder, went to his vehicle, and grabbed his rifle while everybody else stayed up in the pink room.
So had Brock huffed this stuff and was high on it?
Everybody did. According to the story, everybody did.
Okay.
When he got back, he ended up pointing the rifle at Charles, and Charles was like, oh, bang, bang. He thought it was just a big joke. Well, Brock then grabbed Charles, pressed a knife to his throat, and then bounded his wrists. All while Joey Wells and Teresa Huggins was afraid, but they went along with it because, I mean, what were they supposed to do? I mean, these were teenagers here.
Yeah.
These were teenagers. They were scared to death. Well, except for Tony West, who was in his 30s, but Brock demanded that Charles tell him where the money was. But he said the little savings they had was already in the bank. And thinking that Charles wasn't being truthful, Avery Brock went outside and made his way into the house to possibly talk to Charles's husband, Joseph. Now, Joseph was in the house this whole time. The husband.
So I'm sure he was happy that the doctor's out there
just living it up,
getting high with all these people, and he's in the house just making supper or something.
Well, maybe that's what he wanted to do.
It may have been,
you never know. So, but minutes later, the group in the pink room heard multiple gunshots coming from inside the house. Brock shot Joseph, and I hate to say it, Shannon, both dogs at point blank range.
F you.
I knew you were going to get this reaction. I knew you were going to get. Yeah. So West grabbed Charles Scudder, and as he was kicking and screaming, because at that time, Dr. Scudder pretty much knew what happened, the group made their way inside the house. When Charles saw the carnage, he said something that would haunt the group forever. I asked for this. Whoa.
He asked for his dog to be killed?
You'll see. As Charles cried over the body of his dead lover, West took the gun from Brock and shot Charles 4 times, and then shot him right in between the eyes as well, leaving him for dead. Now, this is where it gets spooky, Shannon.
Okay.
This is where it gets really creepy. Years before this happened, Joseph Odom, Charles Scudder's husband, was in a car wreck and had possible brain damage. Maybe some untreated concussions. You never know. This was like the 1970s.
You're able to talk, you're fine.
Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes this led him to see things, maybe possible visions. One night, Joseph had a vision. He saw Charles gagged, bound up, with a bullet hole between his eyes. This led Charles to actually paint a picture of Joe's vision. That picture hung inside the manor, feet away from the murders. That's scary.
Yeah.
As they were leaving, Brock and West turned their friends loose as they headed south towards Mexico in Charles Scudder's stolen Jeep.
So they killed these guys with their friends in the house. So the friends knew exactly what happened. They're just like, all right, you can leave. Pretty
much. They threatened them too. They said, you better not tell a soul that, or we're going to come and do this to you. And I looked, and basically they kind of robbed the place, but what they took was like nothing.
It wasn't worth the killing.
No, there wasn't any millions there. There wasn't a fortune. This was just a couple just living their lives out in the woods, wanting to be left alone, except for the orgies that they would have with consensual partners. Which hey, I'm whatever.
Do what you want to do as long as you consent.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Well, on the way to Mexico and stopped in Laurel, Mississippi, the duo robbed and killed Lieutenant Kirby Phelps for his Toyota because they wanted to lose the Jeep. Because at that time, they figured the cops would probably be looking for this Jeep. So they ended up killing a third person.
There was no need. Just throw them out of the car and get in and run away. That's all you gotta do. There's no reason to kill them.
Right, exactly. Well, 4 days later, a friend of Charles and Joey visited the manor and discovered the murder. So that's when the police noticed all the occult decor, which ignited the satanic panic even more because, that stuff leaks out. That stuff's going to leak out to the press.
Of course, anything negative.
And satanic panic during the 80s, that was oh my gosh, that was crazy. I remember growing up, my mom and dad was very protective about the music I listened to, so I couldn't buy AC/DC or Kiss because they thought it would stand for Knights in Satan Service. And
I grew up with that stuff.
So, yeah, you actually had dad that had really cool records and stuff like that. Which my dad had really cool records too, but not AC/DC or Kiss or anything like that. Days after the event, Teresa, who had pretty much been traumatized, came clean to her family. She eventually told police, and the search for Brock and West began. Both men, Brock and West, went their separate ways in Texas. Supposedly they got into an argument. Both eventually, though, ended up turning themselves in due to fear and guilt.
They turned themselves into Mexico?
No, they turned themselves
Okay.
into, I think, in different states. I believe they kind of roamed around for a little bit, and but basically they ended up both turning themselves in.
Okay, so this is why you don't have a teenager in your hit party.
Exactly, because teenagers are dumb.
Well, they're going to turn on you.
Pretty much. I thought you was talking about Brock, but you talking about Teresa, right?
I'm talking about all the teenagers.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, during the trial, the lawyer for the defense claimed Brock murdered them due to trauma from SA from Charles, and also the gay couple had put them under a satanic spell. Ooh.
I mean, yeah, I can't.
Are you talking about the sexual
Sexual
assault?
assault? I can kind of see that.
But that's the thing though. Did it happen? And I don't. And there's no proof of that happening.
There's no proof of it, but it's like saying that a female was raped and you can't prove it, but did it happen or did it not?
That's true, and
it's the same situation.
This is where it kind of gets into some murky waters because it's a he said she said thing, or he said thing basically.
Yeah, I mean it's like we were watching Eileen Werner's documentary the other day.
Yeah.
And she says she was raped, but there's no proof of it, so that's why she killed the guys. Why did she? It's the same situation.
Yeah, and I get that, but I think it's just the fact that they made a point to say, hey, there's a treasure in there or some sort of like money. That's what they were really after, And I think even if there wasn't an essay event, which is if it happened, it's totally wrong. It's gross, but I think you're using that as
He could either be using it as a crutch, saying this is why I did this, saying he was traumatized by it, which that would happen, or he could be using it and saying, yeah, he truly did assault me, and it was a true thing, and he really was traumatized, and he just assumed, well, if they got money, I'll take that too as repetition to what they did.
That's your
restitution what I did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, eventually, Brock and West got life in prison for the murders.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. Well, today, Corpsewood is still standing in decay. During some paranormal investigations, some claim to hear the sound of a harp playing in the woods, while others have also claimed to see a bull mastiff running around the property.
Good. I'm hoping them dogs hunt them down.
Who down?
The guys that are in prison.
From the woods?
Yeah.
Do you think that they're going to show up in the prison? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The ghost
dogs follow them to prison to kill them. There's no reason for Brock to kill. Well, I guess if you have a bull mastiff coming up on you, but the dogs are innocent. They're just protecting the house.
I totally agree. Especially when it comes to animals. It's we both have a soft spot for critters.
Yeah, I stop and try to get turtles out of the road.
It's that time of year too. Well, folks, next we have an amazing interview from Lynn Lamb from the Scott County Heritage Center and Museum. Now, Lynn is he's a very interesting character, and I love this interview with Lynn.
He's very intelligent. He knows what he's talking about.
He's super intelligent, and he's going to talk about some of the paranormal activity that goes on at the Scott County Heritage Museum. And I got to say, the audio for this is a little wonky. So if you hear audio issues in the interview, we apologize. We do know what the problem is, but you can hear Lynn extremely clear. Some of the questions might be a little garbled. If that happens, just bear with it. And so we'll know what to do next interview for sure.
The important thing is to be able to hear what Lynn says, because it's pretty amazing.
And what else is amazing is the Scott County Heritage Museum. And I know a lot of our listeners, especially our local listeners, go check it out. And they offer amazing ghost tours, and they're real cheap too.
Yeah, they're $10 if you want to go on Friday nights for an hour-and-a-half tour.
Yeah, and Lynn will personally lead you around on these tours and play you some incredible EVPs. I had the pleasure in 2008 to do an overnight investigation there on Halloween night, and then I believe me and you had went through the museum too.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Lynn is the one that showed us around, and he knew exactly what he was talking about. They show you pictures of areas that they're in that shows different ghosts there. So if you're around the area, go check it out.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So, folks, here you go. Here's the interview with Lynn Lamb. Tonight, we're headed to one of southern Indiana's most fascinating historic locations, the Scott County Heritage Center and Museum in Scottsburg, Indiana. The building itself has a long and sometimes tragic history, serving as a home of the residents who had nowhere else to go. Over the years, that history has given rise to countless reports of unexplained activity. And joining us tonight from the Scott County Heritage Museum, we have Lynn Lamb. Welcome to the front porch, Lynn.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We couldn't think of a better guest to have than somebody from Scott County, because we're
evidently you don't know me very well then.
Well, we're lifelong Scott County residents ourselves, so I don't know if you're lifelong. Are you lifelong?
Pretty much, yeah. Been living here in Scottsburg going on 49 years, I guess.
Okay, well, I'm short behind you. I'm 45, so, but
yeah.
I was actually born.
Well, I lived in Clark County in the early part of my life, but since I've been married, I've lived in Scottsburg.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Lynn, hey, can you tell us about the history of this place?
Sure. The Scott County Heritage Center and Museum is in what used to be the old Scott County Poor Farm down on South Main Street. Excuse me. And the building, this particular building was built in 1892. Now, it wasn't the first building to serve as the Scott County Poor Farm, but it was certainly the last building. Excuse me. The first one was over in Lexington, just outside of Lexington, when Lexington, Indiana was the county seat. And then once they moved the county seat to Scottsburg, they also moved the county poor farm, built a wooden structure on the property over there on South Main in the 1870s, and then built the brick building, like I said, in 1892. And it served no other purpose than the county poor farm up until I think they moved the last resident out in 1973, which always just kind of blew my mind that they were still housing one person there until 1973. Now, by that time, excuse me, the building had already started being used as county offices. So if you were raised here in Scott County back in the day, you might have gone there to the health department to get your shots before school started.
Yep, I did.
Okay. And also the area planning commission was in the building. County extension office was there. And so it served many purposes, after being the poor farm. I think, like I said, it had already started being used as county offices in the early 70s. And when they were refurbishing and adding on to the courthouse up on the square, they even held court in that building until the courthouse was completed. And then they moved everything back up to the courthouse. And the county really just intended to let that building fall down. But the county had given it to the Community Foundation, and then the Community Foundation turned it over to Preservation Alliance Incorporated, and that's who turned it into the museum as it is today. So that's just kind of a brief history, I should say, of the building up to this point.
Yeah, I know people that went through adoptions there back in the 80s.
Went through what?
Adoptions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they probably did. Welfare office was there. And so it was a well-used building until very late 1990s when they closed it and then, like I said, Preservation Alliance took it over somewhere in '99 or 2000, and then remodeled the building into the museum and opened as the museum, I think in 2001 or 2002. I can't remember for sure.
How did you get involved?
Well, I love history. Let me say that. Excuse me. And so I started volunteering after work. I would go in there and help catalog items that were being donated and stuff like that. And then at some point, they decided to offer ghost tours because it's been reported as being haunted, gosh, since the earliest I know of was back in the early 70s. And so my wife and I, we got involved with the ghost tours. So we've been leading the ghost tours and doing the ghost investigations now for 23, 24 years.
I've actually had the pleasure. Well, actually, we both had the pleasure of touring on a ghost tour years ago. And
that was probably the one that led you through the building then.
I believe you were, Lynn. I believe you were. And I also remember, I think it was 2008, there was a group of us that actually did an overnight there on Halloween night. I don't know if you know that.
We've done many of those, yes.
Yes. And it was creepy.
Sometimes we get there because my wife and I always get there a little bit early before, if we're having a paranormal group or just a tour. And so we get there just a little bit early and kind of get a feel for the building. And sometimes you don't feel anything. And then other times we'll walk in and it feels so creepy, we kind of think, well, I don't know if I can do this tonight or not, but we always do. So
what kind of strange activity goes on at the museum that you've noticed?
It's mostly sounds, footsteps. One woman that used to work there told us that she could hear children running and laughing like they were playing. We have had some full-bodied apparitions. Excuse me. And I've even saw a shadow figure in there, 6-8 years ago, whatever it's been now. And so it's been, we've got a handful of pictures. We have a lot of EVPs that normally I will play for, our tour groups or what have you. We've had doors open and closed by themselves. So, it's kind of the normal hauntings that you hear of anywhere else. Some seem to be intelligent. Others seem to not be, just kind of like a tape recorder playing back a residual haunt, I believe is what they call that. So, but you name it, and we've probably just about had it,
That's kind of funny you talk about the residual hauntings because that was actually going to be one of my next questions. Also, one of those things that I've kind of always wondered, with it being a farm and people that were just on kind of like on the bottom tier of society, when they would have to go around like this, was there any evidence of any like mentally ill people there?
Oh yeah, it was not only known as the Scott County Poor Farm, it was also at different times called the Scott County Asylum. And we do know that there were several people that lived there at one time or the other that had mental disabilities or what have you, and physical disabilities. And there's one particular girl who came to live there in 1894. Her name was Vivi, and she had to be taken care of because of her disabilities, whatever they were. I don't think she could speak. So different women would be put in charge of her each day, and they would get her up and get her dressed, take her down and make sure she got her breakfast, and then they would take her into the women's sitting room. And then that particular woman would have to go out and do her chores, and they would just come back and forth and check on her periodically throughout the morning and the day. And Vivi is one of the tragedies there that happened there in November of 1894. After they'd gone through that daily ritual of getting her up and getting breakfast and dressed, they set her in the women's sitting room, and the woman went out to do her chores, and she came back in, and Vivi had gotten up and opened the door to the wood stove. Well, the woman scolded her and put her back in the chair, and the woman went back out, and the woman came back in at lunch, and the room was filled with smoke. Vivi was in the floor on fire. So the woman ran out and called for the men to bring water, that the building was on fire. And so the superintendent and the other men rushed in, and the superintendent's wife had actually opened up one of the windows and threw a burning chair out the window. And the superintendent went to Vivi and tore off what was left of her clothes. And he said in just, a few seconds, she died. And so the superintendent told the women to get her up, or, get her cleaned up, get her in a decent dress. And he ordered a casket or a coffin from up on the square. There was a coffin maker, furniture maker up on the square here in Scottsburg. And they brought the coffin down, placed Vivi in it, and took her over to the Scottsburg Cemetery and buried her. And so a couple of days go by, and the local coroner catches wind of it, and he comes to the poor farm and asks the superintendent, about it. He said, we had an 18-year-old girl burned to death here the other day. And the coroner said, well, you were supposed to notify me. And I didn't realize that. So the coroner had her body exhumed and made sure that, she had died of being burned and not being murdered or what have you. And they held a coroner's inquest, and we have a copy. It's a photocopy of the handwritten coroner's inquest, and that's why we know in such detail, how Vivi died that day. And I have a copy. I always show it to people when we're doing tours or overnight investigations. I can show them the actual, the photocopy of the handwritten coroner's inquest. And all the witnesses, as they were testifying, when they would talk about Vivi, they wouldn't call her by name. They would call her the idiot, because that was just the term used for somebody like that back in the day.
Yeah, that's we've come a long way since then, for sure. Has there been any other recorded deaths in the area?
I have a list. Excuse me. I went through what records we have, and I compiled a list of over 200 names of people that were living there when they died. One man cut his own throat with his pocket knife. One man fell out of a window and died. Two men were hit by trains on two different occasions. Of course, then there was the, death from illness and all that. And I also have that when I lead the ghost tours and stuff, and show those to people. And that way they can use that list and speak directly, and see if they get any responses.
You talked about BV. Is there any other spirit activity around anybody else?
Yeah, there's a spirit we call Mary. Mary died there in the early 1940s. Um, and Mary was another one of those that had some sort of issues. Um, and she couldn't get along with the other. And they didn't call them residents, they called them inmates. So that tells you it's not a pleasant place to live. You know, it's a place where you got 3 meals a day, and a roof over your head. But if you were mentally and physically capable, you had chores to do every day. It wasn't You couldn't just hang out in the building all day long. You had to go out and do your chores. But Mary couldn't get along with other inmates. So Mary was the only person other than the superintendent and his family to have a private room in the building, because all the other rooms were kind of like dorms. The men had their separate sitting and sleeping rooms, as well as the women. But anyway, Mary had her own private room, and at night, in order to keep peace, they would lock her in her room. Now you can imagine if somebody were to get locked in their room today, you know, in a facility like that, the facility would be in all kinds of trouble. But that was just standard practice to keep peace at night. And one of the ladies that used to be here in town, I'm not even sure if she's still living, her parents were superintendents there in the late 1930s and early 1940s. And she was just a little girl. And her father always told her, said, if the building catches on fire, the first thing you got to do is make sure someone's called the fire department. The second thing you do is go unlock Mary's door. So that tells you the building was more important than Mary.
Wow.
Mary is also associated. We have a ghost cat. We have it on video as well as EVPs.
My wife just went, "Aw."
But nearly every time we're in the building, someone hears the cat. We've had people complain of cat allergies, and there are no living cats in the building. I can promise you that. But like I said, we've got it on EVP, and somebody even gave me a video they took on one of their investigations of what looks like a cat. And also I have a still picture of something very low to the floor that's eyes are shining, just like a cat would.
Wow.
So, but we, now I can't think of any others that we can actually name. But like I said, there's times that you can hear what sounds like a conversation in another part of the building, but you can't quite hear what they're saying, and you can never exactly locate exactly where it's coming from. Like I said, it's pretty much just like any other haunted building. You know, we just seem to have it all. You know,
Right.
other than we have had a couple of people injured. We were told by both of them that they were pushed. The first one, the woman said she was pushed and she broke her arm when she fell.
Oh, wow.
And the second one, which happened 6 or 8 months ago, the gentleman was at the top of the stairs, and he was up there by himself, and he said that he heard somebody speak to him from behind. And when he said he turned to see who it was, he said there was nobody there, but then all of a sudden he was pushed against the wall and then pushed down the stairs. He fell all the way to the bottom of the stairs. He is very lucky that he wasn't injured worse than what he was.
Like
But-
along going along with that, my question was: do you think any of these spirits are evil? Do you think they're evil spirits? Or do you think they're what do you think they're
I
trying to
don't,
do?
I don't think they're evil. Um, Maybe just mean. Uh, and I mean, that's only happened a couple of times. We had one guy that his arm was scratched. Um, but we've had people not pushed like the two I was just telling you about, but touched or shoved just a little bit. But mostly people. Well, we had one woman that was in there with her husband, and of course it was dark. We were leading them there on a tour, and she said that she thought her husband had walked up to her and put his arm around her waist, and when she turned to look at him, he was 8 feet away from her, and that nobody had put their arm around her waist.
So they're getting frisky there.
Yeah. And it seems like women are the ones that report that kind of stuff more than men. Now, whether, they're more susceptible to it or men seem to be more skeptical.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe men are just afraid to say anything if something happens to them. We had a girl that used to volunteer, excuse me, and her little boy was probably 3-ish, and he walked up to our director at the time, and he looked up at him and he says, "I don't like you, and neither do those two little girls upstairs."
Wow.
And at that time, our upstairs was unfinished. There were no light fixtures up there. There was absolutely nothing up there. So we've had the report of twin girls being there.
That's like The Shining.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Well, if you see a tricycle go down the hall, dude.
Well, if I see a tricycle go down the hall, I'm leaving.
I know that the Scott County Heritage Museum has like a lot of different artifacts from like different spots in Scott County. Do you think any of the artifacts themselves are haunted?
Oh yeah, I believe, I'm a firm believer in things or spirits being attached to different items. As a matter of fact, I think that a lot of the furniture that we have on display came out of the old Englishton mansion, or the English mansion that used to be in Lexington, Indiana, where Englishton Park is today. And I think that Mrs. English has come with her furniture. And Mrs. English was not from Lexington. She was originally from Indianapolis. And so she was always kind of well-to-do, and I think she's a little unhappy that her fancy furniture is now in a poor farm building.
Right. Also with Scott County, just down the road, it's Pigeon Roost. And for those that don't know what Pigeon Roost is, we basically had a massacre here with Native Americans and some early pioneers. Do you have any artifacts from there?
I don't think we have any actual artifacts that I know of. But of course, we do tell the story of the Pigeon Roost Massacre that happened on September 3rd, 1812. And there were 23 men, women, and children massacred on that day. But I don't think we actually have any artifacts from that day.
Do you ever have any smells that have no sources to them, so you just have random smells through the building?
As a matter of fact, yes. There are times, excuse me, that we'll run into like a wall of odor, like sewer smell, and it's happened. It's happened in the gift shop area when you first walk in. It's happened in the back hallway. I know I've smelled it in both of those places. and other people have reported it in other parts of the building, and it's not always, right outside the restroom door or something like that. But yeah, it's usually a very foul odor. And we had I don't know, a medium, I'm not sure what he was, said that he told us that that's the way one of the spirits manifest themselves is through that odor. But, you know,
That was actually my next question. Have you ever had any clairvoyants or psychic mediums go through the place? And if so, what?
yeah, we had a guy years ago that came in there, and he said that he was a channeler and that he had some spirit guide that I think he was a Native American spirit guide, and had a name as long as my arm that I couldn't even begin to pronounce. And he came in and he had dowsing rods. I assume a lot of people know what dowsing rods are, and they had crystals hanging on them and stuff. And we were upstairs, and again, this is when the upstairs was unfinished, and he had the dowsing rods held out in front of him, and they were kind of moving about. And he asked the spirits that if there's anyone here, can you make some sort of noise or make yourself known? And we're all just kind of rolling our eyes at him. And all of a sudden, out in the hallway, there was a huge crash. Well, of course, I immediately ran out in the hallway, and there was absolutely nothing out there that could have fallen over.
Wow.
It sounded like somebody pushed over a 10-foot step ladder or something. It made that big a racket, and there was absolutely nothing in that hallway. Like I said, the upstairs was unfinished at the time, and there was nothing up there.
Did that make you a believer after that?
Well, I've been a believer for a long time. I mean, I had my first paranormal experience when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If you want, you can go ahead and share it. We'd love to hear it, Lynn.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, I was 11 or 12 years old in our house that we lived in when I was a kid out in northern Clark County. And for some reason, I couldn't sleep that night. And I was kind of laying there looking around. And then I finally got up and I walked over to my dresser where the mirror was at. And I was leaning on the dresser looking into my mirror. But to my left was our living room, and it was pitch black. But when I looked, there stood one of my uncles, who at this point had been dead probably 8 years. And just as plain as day, but he was just kind of a grayish color from head to toe. And he was standing there facing me. And we looked at each other for probably not more than 5 or 6 seconds. And then all of a sudden he just disappeared. And I've never seen him since. I don't know why he would have shown himself to me that night. It didn't scare me. It was just like, oh yeah, that's my uncle, Right. And but yeah, that was my first paranormal experience. And I've had, I watched a shadow figure walk through 2 doorways in the museum 4 or 5 years ago, or whatever it's been now.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, we were leading a small tour. I think there was 4 people, and then my wife and I. And we had walked out of one of the upstairs rooms into the hallway, and I was facing the hallway where the elevator's at, and I watched a shadow person walk from that hallway into the hallway where we were at, and then they turned to their left and walked through the doorway into the room that we had just walked out of.
Wow.
We had, and prior to that, a few months prior to that, we had a group there doing an investigation, and there was a retired New Albany police officer on that investigation, and he was standing in that hallway in front of the elevator facing what is now the restrooms, which used to be Mary's room I was talking about earlier. And he said he turned and he said it was just like he walked into a black wall. And but he said it was just this black tall mass, and it freaked him out. And I remember him coming downstairs and talking about how it shook him up, that evening. And then it was like a month later, we had another group in there, and they saw shadow figure. So, it's not uncommon.
You talked about EVPs, and I know you've gathered years worth of electronic voice phenomenons. Can you talk about any of the ones that you've collected, like some of your best ones? What do you think they're trying to say?
Yeah, the first one we caught in there was, we had been in there, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours that night. A group of us, about 6 of us, we were just kind of doing our own investigation, and we were getting ready to leave. So we were in the gift shop. I think I had actually gone outside, and my wife had the recorder, and she said, if there's anybody here that's got anything to say it now, because we're getting ready to walk out the door. And then after 2 seconds, there's a voice comes in there and says no. Now, when I play that for people, if we got, say, a group of 10 people, half of them will hear no, and the other half will hear go, but either one fits.
Right.
But we hear no. And it's clearly, not any of us.
Right.
It's a completely different voice. Also, we've got one upstairs. From upstairs, I had the recorder this particular night, and I had asked them, if there's anybody here, can you make some sort of noise, let us know you're here. And we get a response, and it was very hard to hear. I almost deleted it when I first played it back because I didn't hear it. But somebody said, no, play that again. And I had asked for them to make some sort of noise, or I'd asked them to bang on something. And the response we got was, we can't bang on it. I mean,
wow.
A complete sentence.
That's awesome.
And then, we've gotten several intelligent responses from questions and stuff. I have got so many recordings that I have never even gone through yet.
Right. You might have some gold in there. You never know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the ones that I play on our tours and stuff, are, I call them Class A EVPs. I mean,
it sounds like it.
Sometimes they're a little bit hard to hear, but some of them are very plain. We've recorded moans. I'm trying to think what else. We've recorded the cat on a couple of different occasions. We even recorded a bell that we, for years, I didn't hear it. And then one night, somebody said, what was that bell? And I said, what bell? And they said, right at the start of the recording. And I played it back, and it sounds like a church bell. Well, this was recorded, like at midnight, probably on a Saturday night. And the building's not really close to any churches. And why would we hear a bell? But it sounds like a church bell, and it just chimes like one time. So.
Is there any time you've ever felt scared there where you're like, I'm done, I'm getting out of here?
No.
You have
I won't go in the building by myself after dark. So we used to have a theater group, we would put on plays to help raise money for the museum. And we had a play one evening, and had gotten in and out of my costume in one of the upstairs room. Well, back in that day, I was addicted to this like Afrin nose spray and couldn't go 15 minutes without using it. And I had accidentally left my nose spray in the upstairs room when we left. And I told my wife, I said, well, we'll just run to Walmart. Went to Walmart. They were out of it. The drugstores were already closed. It was after 10 o'clock. So I told my wife, I said, we have got to go to the museum and get my nose spray, or I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. So we pull up to the museum, and she says, I'll wait in the car. And I said, no, you're not. I said, you're going in with me. So I make her go with me. Now, during the day, I've been in there many times during the day, and it doesn't bother me. But after dark, I will not go in the building by myself.
I don't blame you.
No.
So we're about to wrap things up, Lynn. Real quick before we go, how can people get involved? How can people go to the ghost tours? How can people get in contact with you?
Well, right now we are doing the second Friday and Saturday of every month. We have opened it up to public investigations, and so it will be like a 6-hour investigation for $20 per person, with a limit of, I think we're limiting it to 14 people. But a regular hour and a half ghost tour is $10 per person. Now, if you want to do a private investigation, it's a $200 flat fee, but that covers up to 10 people. So, but on the other hand, if it's 2 people, it's still a $200 flat fee. And you can schedule those by calling the museum, and the telephone number there is 812 752 1050. And you speak to whoever's there, and then they will forward the messages to me, and then with whoever's information, and then I'll get back to them and we'll set something up. But like I said, right now we're doing public investigations the second Friday and Saturday of every month, but you have to schedule and you have to pay in advance for any of the tours. So
right. And those prices are market. Those prices
no, I mean, we've never raised our prices since we started these 23 years ago. We have never raised our prices because, a lot of these places, Whispers over in Mitchell, it's several $100s, I think.
We've been there before.
Yeah, we've been there and wasn't really impressed. We didn't have anything happen the night we were there. Waverly Hills is, $1,000 or $1,500 for an investigation, and so we've always just tried to keep ours low, just to make it more accessible to everybody.
That sounds awesome. Well, Lynn, I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming to the front porch with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I look forward to hearing it, and I look forward to watching or listening to your other podcasts as you get them.
Awesome. All right. Well, we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All righty, no problem.
Wow, what an incredible interview from Lynn Lamb from the Scott County Heritage Museum. We want to thank the Scott County Heritage Museum and Lynn for personally just getting involved in doing this interview. This was great, and I encourage anybody that's in the area to go check out the Scott County Heritage Museum and learn something about local history. And it's just creepy there.
Yeah, and they do paranormal tours on Friday nights right now for $10.
$10, and you can't beat that, especially in this economy.
Yeah, and it's a fun, interesting tour, and it's very. I highly encourage it. They show you pictures of stuff that they see there. They have EVPs.
It's incredible. So, but yeah, that's the show for this week. If you like what you heard, join us again. And if you really, really want to support us, head on over to frontporchparanormal.com. Join the Patreon. It's super cheap, just like the Scott County Heritage Museum. It's super cheap. It starts out of $1 a tier, and it goes up to $3. For the first tier, for $1, you get access to our Discord server, and for $3 a month, you get not only access to a Discord server, but you get bonus shows. We're starting to do bonus shows, Shannon. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes.
And also, you get a shout out on the show, so that's really cool. But the mega thing that we have on frontporchparanormal.com is our merchandise, and our logo looks sick on a shirt.
It truly does.
Like the hats look great. Just go check it out, frontporchparanormal.com.
I can't wait to put a magnet on my car.
Oh yeah, we have car magnets. How sick is that? So, all right, folks, we're out of here. We're leaving the front porch. Time to turn the front porch light off.
Just make sure before you leave, you go to the whatever podcast station you're listening to, and give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us 5 stars, whatever you could do.
Yes, whatever you could do to get this out. If that helps us out tremendously, believe it or not. So yeah, folks, just keep it spooky.